And now you're at the end of the class, and it's your chance to report on how you developed your app. The final report tells the whole story of the class, from your initial idea, through your generative story, through your field testing, and to your conclusions, both the good and the bad. Not everything works as one hopes it would work, and it's important to record that in your final paper, because other people will be going to this to find out how to move to the next step. Frank will now give you the format that we recommend you put your report into.
So the format for the paper will be the format that we use in research to present work like this. Most of the work that we do goes to a conference called CHI, for Computer-Human Interaction, and it's kind of the premier place to showcase results from studies like this, and really trying to understand how technology and people work together. So you can get the template for the paper on the course website with the assignment, and we'd like you to use that template. There's one in LaTeX and one in Word that you can use. And the structure of the paper is as follows. It starts with an introduction, and the introduction is really setting up the reason for exploring this topic area. Why is this an important thing to pursue? What are you doing that's new? And you can probably reuse a lot of this text from your proposal, really setting the stage for why people should care about your research. What is the contribution it's going to make? How is it going to make people's lives better? Then the paper goes into a related work section. So now you're talking about what came before you. What have people done both in academic literature as well as commercial applications that have been released in your field of interest? And you can close that section by talking about what wasn't there. What wasn't covered by the previous research that made it so that you went out and did your project? What new feature, what new functionality, what was kind of the core part of your concept model that you came up with that was really showing what would be new? And that's the related work section. And we're expecting to see references to previous publications. You can look at the ACM Digital Library online to find some of these. Hopefully you had some in your proposal text that you could just reuse right here. After the related work, then you can talk about your method. You can talk about the generative study you ran, talk about what methods you used, talk about who your users were, and then summarize the findings that came out of your affinity analysis. And how did those themes and that data lead you to an application idea? Then you can talk about that application idea that you have and have a section on the system itself. And in that section, you can talk about how you designed it, how you ran the usability study, what you learned from that usability study and fed back into a design iteration. And you can talk about technically how the system's architected. What's on the phone, what's on a server, how do they work back and forth, how do you manage some of the issues in location and networking that we talked about in the class. And then you can go on to talk about your experiment. What was your field research? How did you learn how people adopted this system in their daily lives? So you can talk about the methods that you used. You could talk about the qualitative and quantitative methods you used. You can talk about how you released it, how you chose the users that were going to use it. If you released it on an app store, you can talk about how you managed that launch, how you tweeted about it or talked about it in other ways to get people to look at the app and download it. Talk about the data that you collected, and then talk about your analysis of that data. What were the themes that you found, both from the quantitative data and the qualitative data? And what does that tell you about how people adopted your service in their daily lives? And that's the most important part of this section of the paper. How was the service adopted? And like Ed said before, it doesn't have to all be positive. What worked? What didn't work? What would be your next design iteration if you had a chance to make one? And so then you can end the paper with that discussion. Talk about what worked, talk about what didn't, talk about what you would do next, how you would proceed, what you would do differently if you had the whole project over to do again. And then you can end with that conclusion. And that's the structure of a CHI paper. You can see many examples that are posted on the course website, both of previous student projects as well as papers that have been published at the CHI conference itself. It's been a great semester. We thank you for all of your hard work, and we hope you really enjoyed taking this class and building a new app.